This is going to be the third video for fractions for 4th grade. And in this video, we're going to be talking about day 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. In this video, we're going to be talking about TEKS 4.3e, 4.3f, which deal with adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. And we're going to be talking about 4.3g, which is identifying fractions on a number line. So, the good news about adding and subtracting fractions on a number, on adding and subtracting fractions, is that we've been doing it this whole time as we've been dealing with fractions. As we have been decomposing fractions and talking about ways to decompose fractions. For instance, if I have 7/8, we know that is 4/8 plus 3/8. So we have been doing it all along. So this day really should be just a review for students and a practice day. Actually, the next 2 days should really be practice days. So on the first day, we can give students problems such as 2/7 plus 5/7. And before we actually solve that, I'm going to ask students to think about, if I was estimating the sum of these two fractions, am I going to have a sum that is closer to 0, closer to a half, or closer to a whole? And students are going to estimate that. Well, I think it's going to be, it's closer to whole. And of course, when we add that, it is 7/7, which equals a whole. But to get that TEK in about the estimation, you want to make sure you ask them to estimate before you do any kind of addition or subtraction with students. I may ask students 8/9 minus 3/9. All right, boys and girls, do you think that's estimate's going to be closer to 0, closer to a half, or closer to a whole? And so they estimate, well, I think it's going to be around a half, because this is almost 1. This is less than a half, so I'm going to say it's about a half. And then when you solve it, you can talk to students about half of 9, right, is 4.5. So, yes, you're right, it's about a half, okay? So there's no really major difficult concept here. Kids usually get adding and subtracting fractions pretty well. The thing students have to do, though, is on day 15, you're really putting this into problem situations. So you're really putting it into word problems. So just like any problem that has to do with addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, you are using that QT-Pack model, that QT-Pack thinking process to solve those problems. So day 15 is them getting addition and subtraction fraction word problems, and solving, okay, and making sure that they do that estimation piece as well. You may also have them do problems like this. Okay, and so we can add the wholes together, so that's 3. And then we can add the fractions together. If it goes over, so let's say I had 2 1/4, and I add 1 5/4, well, that's not a good fraction to say. Yeah, we can do 4/4. We are then going to get 3 and, no, I mean 3/4, sorry. I'm going to get 3 4/4. And then students will realize that equals 1, so it's 4, okay? I could ask kids to add together two improper fractions. And then we would get 11/7. And as I said previously, when students are working, if you want them to convert this to a mixed number, that is okay. They don't have to. But if you want them to, make sure you're not teaching them any kind of strategy for that. Let them use what they know of fractions and they know of sizes. And so I know if I have 11/7, if I take away a whole, which is 7/7, right, I'm left with 4/7. So I have a whole and 4/7 left, okay? So we want to make sure they're using their reasoning about fractions to determine how to convert fractions between mixed numbers and improper fractions. That's really not one of our TEKs, but with students being flexible with fractions, they should be able to do that, okay? So that is just adding, subtracting fractions, and problem solving with adding and subtracting fractions. Our next TEK then has to do with fractions on a number line. And we worked a little bit with this whenever we talked about decimals on a number line. But we also want to come back to fractions on a number line as well. So, for instance, if I have 0, 1, and 2, and this is broken up into 4 equal pieces, if I want to know what this point is on the number line, the strategy that we teach students for this is to actually create a fraction model. For some reason the model helps students. I don't know why. Number lines seem hard to them, but when they change it into a fraction bar, they get it much better, much easier for some reason. So it's just a strategy we help them with. So point A is in between two wholes. It is in between 1 and 2, okay? So I already know something about point A. Point A has a whole number of 1. It's going to be a mixed number, okay? So I can write that down. I know that it's going to be a whole number of 1 because it's in between 1 and 2, right? Then I tell students, take the two wholes that the point is in between and create your fraction bar. Okay? Then find the lines on the number line and just create your fraction bar. And I can tell right there that that fraction bar is broken up into 4 equal parts. Okay? Then I'm going to shade up to my point. And so then it becomes very easy for me to see how many are shaded, 3. How many total parts were in the fraction bar, 4. So this point is 1 3/4 on the number line, okay? So this strategy can work with decimals, it can work with fractions. Because once I know, let's say on a decimal number line I find this, it'll then tell me it is 9/10 or 83/100, right? And I can work with that. All right, so that is basically it. You have 2 days of number line practice, and then you do a fraction assessment. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, I will see you in the next video.